Hey, Sean, it's Jay with the Buffalo News. Hope you're able to get some rest. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
Good, thanks. If you could, can you start with Mitch? Is he in concussion protocol?
Yeah, he is. Mitch is
Okay.
protocol.
Yeah, obviously I'm aware you cannot, really give too many details on that. So instead, would you just be able to maybe speak a little bit to what Mitch has meant to this team, both on the field and off the field this season?
Right. He's been one of our leaders. Obviously, he's a captain. He's been a great influence off the field, on the field, and just a real steadying force for us on the offensive line there.
Yeah, and offensive line wise, penalties the last couple of weeks, it seems like an inordinate amount of the flags that you have drawn have been against the guys up front. Is that an issue that you've sort of identified that you feel like up front they need to try to clean up here a little bit going, the rest of the way?
I would say, our entire team, we don't want to be known for beating ourselves, right? And so making sure that we're cleaning up the penalties as best we can. We want to play aggressive, but we also want to play disciplined and with good technique.
Along those lines, I know you have a little bit more runway for penalties that occur during the play when guys are trying to make a play. But given the enormity of the penalty against Cam in that situation and potentially how costly that could have been for you guys had this game gone the other way, how do you, how do you kind of does that penalty border on unacceptable for you, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I want to be aggressive. We want to be aggressive in all three phases. At the same time, we want to play smart. And I think that was a great example of being able to, that balance of how important that balance is, of aggressive yet smart at the same time.
Thanks. And then just sorry to monopolize your time here, but any other injury updates that you know of after talking with Nate after the game?
Boogie Basham has a calf. We'll see where that goes. And then Ryan Bates and Jordan Phillips are improving, and we'll see how they do.
Is Boogie day to day at this point? Would you call him or?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
Coach, good afternoon. Mookie Hawkins, Buffalo Sports Today. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Mookie?
I'm good, man. 5 straight victory Sunday. Coach, just tell us some pros and cons of yesterday's victory.
Well, I thought the situational football was really strong yesterday. Red zone, third down, 2-minute. Continued to do a pretty good job with taking care of the football. We did have one unfortunate turnover yesterday. I think the defense came out and forced either a field goal or 3 and out. So that was good, somewhat of complimentary football on that end of things. But I think overall, just staying close to our basics, staying close to the margins, the details of things that decide games will be important for us. And the physicality of our football team is something that's absolutely necessary this time of year.
No doubt, Coach. And according to NFL Network, they say analytically the Bills defense play with a light box 74% of the time. Do you think teams are taking advantage of that analytically?
Analytically, I don't know if they're taking advantage of that. I can tell you what I saw yesterday, and it's just, us, whether it's a light box or an 8-man box, playing with better fundamentals, playing with more physicality, more pad level. That's really where the game starts is an attitude and pad level, and we've got to do a better job with that.
No doubt, Coach. I love how you think. And what are your thoughts on Cole Beasley seeing some action yesterday?
Yeah, great to see Cole out there. Just felt, really good for him when I looked over in pregame warm up, and he's out there and he's, with his buddies, and he's out competing and doing something that he loves to do. I think that's a great moment in yesterday's game. And then for him to get out there and get a catch or two was good. Good to hear the fans yell his name also.
No doubt, Coach. Have a great short work week.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, Coach. Tre'Davious White seems to be rounding into shape, was around the ball a lot yesterday, 3 pass breakups. What are your impressions of him over the past couple of weeks as he rounds into shape, as I said, and just your impressions of his performance against the Dolphins?
Yeah, I thought to your point, Alex, that he made he was in good position on a lot of the throws. We had the one in the short red zone there that got behind us. Another one on a third down that could have been in better position. But I do think that the week he had of practice, his mindset, his approach was focused. It was full of preparation and getting himself ready to go. And then you saw plays he was making on the ball yesterday in particular.
Now, how about Damar Hamlin? It seemed like he had a couple of chances to make some tackles at the point of attack, didn't come up with those. What have you seen from him the past few weeks? Seems like he started the season strong, but has had some inconsistencies. Would you agree with that? Or if not, just your impressions of Damar Hamlin's performance in the past few weeks?
Yeah, I think he's a young player that is gaining valuable experience. And there's been some plays where he's, really helped us out and made a big play for us and made good tackles. And then there's other plays where technique wise, he can be in better position or to make tackles or make plays on the ball. And that's going to be an ongoing process for us as we move forward here.
Now, just one more. You play on Thanksgiving. You're playing during Christmas time. Past couple of seasons, you've kind of been away from your families during the holiday season. How difficult does it make it? But at the same time, does it help the team kind of grow together? Kind of all you guys got is each other during the holiday season?
Yeah, I think to a point, right? I mean, we're on the road for Thanksgiving. We're on the road Christmas Eve. It brings you a little bit closer together when it's all you got, and you can share stories. You kind of get into those conversations that say, "Hey, what does your family do on Christmas or Thanksgiving?" And just you share some experiences together, which brings you closer together from time to time. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, I guess to follow up on that first, did anyone have a Christmas or holiday tradition that you really enjoyed and have taken from them?
No, no, we haven't gotten, as far as Christmas goes, we haven't had those conversations yet, but I'm sure some of that will come up maybe on the plane ride to Chicago this coming weekend.
Gotcha. And then I was curious, you talked some about this last night, but just, for Quentin, Naheem, James Cook to all have touchdown receptions in one game, a good reflection of getting all these guys involved in the offense. Just, what is it like? I know Ken's been trying to find ways to get so many guys involved. So how did you see that play out last night with those guys as examples? Yeah,
good to see those young players be productive, and when their number was called, be prepared, and they stepped up and made the plays that they needed to make. I think Coach Dorsey and the offensive staff have done a really good job of trying to game plan in that way where they can potentially get more than one position group involved. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes just because of the way the defense is defending us, it may not always be that way. So you take what the defense gives you, and I thought more than anything, we did a good job of that last night. And I thought there was great communication amongst the offensive coaches on the sideline making adjustments, and then Josh getting the ball to the open player as much as possible there.
With those particular cases, like I know you want to get lots of people involved on the offense to have options, but when it's also guys getting those first touchdowns with the Bills in some cases, like what is it like from a coaching perspective in that case?
In terms of feeling good for the players, you mean? Or
yeah, just seeing like these guys having big moments when it's also helping the offense kind of spread out.
Yeah. No, I think that's very healthy when you have that kind of bandwidth, if you will, of an offense where the ball is being spread around. Josh is dealing and he's getting the ball out of his hands in a decisive manner. And I think that's healthy, for our offense for sure.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, I know you talked about this a little bit last night, but I was curious, how do you feel like it went? Dane and Kaiir ended up doing almost 50-50 at that cornerback 2 spot. I feel like, how'd you think that went when you were able to watch it back? And was that kind of the plan going in for them to split it like that?
Yes, it was, Elena, the plan to rotate at least. And I thought Coach Butler did a pretty good job did a good job, in fact, of getting their reps somewhat close. And both guys were doing some good things out there. So it was a good ebb and flow during the game there.
Are you able to, I don't know, when you look at that and you're able to look at what they did at different times during the game, can you see how that's going as the game's going on? Like judge that? Are you in communication with how they're rotating and all that? Or do you kind of let Coach Butler deal with that and see as it goes? Like what is that like on the sideline where you're deciding how that's going to rotate?
Yeah, a little bit of all the above. You feel the game. I'll get involved from time to time, or they'll let me know from time to time. And overall, that's more of Coach Butler's responsibility, if you will, and then a little bit of Coach Frazier's as well. I'm a little bit more over the top, obviously, during the game and managing the game. So, but I have a pretty good feel during the game as to what's going on. And last night, for example, you could tell both guys were out there and they were playing fast, playing with great energy, and doing some good things for us.
And then I was just curious, after things, just the adjustments the offense were able to make, or 4 punts in the third quarter, how they were able to adjust and put together 2 huge drives at the end of the game. Just what, I know you talked last night about the communication that was involved in that, but why do you think what adjustments were able to be made to kind of put together those 2 drives after it just wasn't working in the third quarter?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we had those 4 punts there in a row. And again, like I said, the communication amongst the coaching staff and then the execution on the field was really what stood out the most. In particular, that last drive, we had some semblance of balance, run and pass, different style passes. I thought the offensive line did a good job on that drive in particular, giving Josh time. And then when you can run the ball like we were able to run it, I thought the pad level was where it needed to be, and the execution was as well.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, thanks for taking the time to chat with us this afternoon. Just given everything heading into the fourth quarter, you get the injury to Mitch, which I know is just a key part to your offense. You talk so much this season about the team's ability to be resilient, the injuries and other factors that have happened so far. To pull out the win last night, is that maybe the best example of that team's resiliency you've seen this season?
The latest example for sure. I think it's a great example more than anything that our players know how to win, regardless of the situation, regardless of the adversity maybe they're facing. The challenge is you can't always depend on that, right? You got to prepare on the front end to make sure our fundamentals are in place and our details are in place in order for us to play even better as we move forward here.
And touching on something that Catherine had asked too, and you may have already kind of answered this, but again, with just being able to share the wealth and the way you guys were able to on offense, when you have those conversations with Ken, I mean, isn't it kind of exciting at this point in the season is now you get to have those discussions of, hey, we can now kind of evolve this offense and keep getting guys that aren't Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Devin involved into this offense. I guess, what are those conversations kind of look like moving forward with Ken?
Well, I mean, Ken being in his first season, he's when you're at this part in the year or this point in the year, much like a rookie player, you're no longer a rookie. You've been through some of the things that you have to go through, and you have a good feel at this point for who your players are and the weapons you have and the tools you have and the resources you have at your disposal. So, those conversations take place less and less this time of year, but we do have conversations nonetheless.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, kind of to follow up on that, you've had a couple of deep playoff runs, not only here, but elsewhere. How much is it, important this time of year to be, evolving yourself or, adding new things like Josh talked about this week, Ken Dorsey installing a lot of new stuff for this game and guys executed it really well. How much of a balance is that of trying to be new with what you do on both sides of the ball week in and week out, especially as the playoffs kind of approach?
Yeah, I mean, Matt, I think it's important that, you are evolving every week, and that's where that growth mindset, and that's why it's so important, right? And then improving your level of play every week, regardless of who you play, where you play, when you play is critical that your focus is on that. And yes, evolving maybe some schematics as well, but making sure you're not getting too far away from fundamentals and the details of what you do, because if you try and skip over that thinking you've arrived and you get too far away from the kind of home base and the foundation you built in training camp, then it can cause you some big time serious problems.
Mm-hmm. And you talked a little bit about Dawson Knox's performance last night, but after getting a chance to look at the film, I asked him about, like, in a game like that, when you have a couple, plays that you want back, drops, whatever, pushing through that and then finding a way to make plays late in the game. I mean, that's what you're probably looking for. What was your assessment of his game and the way that he did push through those challenges?
Yeah, I was in the room there when he was mentioning some of those, so I heard those, and I think it's just tremendous that he has awareness, self-awareness to know how important it is to be able to reset in those situations, and knowing that your teammates are going to need you that very next play and then on throughout the rest of the game. And that was a great example last night of him doing that.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Sean, I just wanted to follow up on what you're saying about Ken Dorsey, how, at this point, it's no longer like the rookie OC kind of at where he's at in the season, recognizing that there's more of the year to go. What are some of the ways you've most seen him evolve in his first year in this role?
I just, I think like for all of us, the breadth of the job is more than you think, right? And it's not that he didn't know, it's true for all of us. Me as a head coach, me as a first-time coordinator, just use my own personal experience going through what, Ken has gone through this year as a first-time play caller. Matt Smiley in a similar way, when you're new to a job, you don't always know exactly everything that the job entails until you're actually in the job. Like I've said before, there's no substitute for experience. So I think it's all well and good, and you continue to make adjustments, and you try never to make the same mistake twice, and staying true to your core values and the reminders that you've learned from the early part of the season. You kind of look at those during the week and say, hey, we shape a game plan, but I want to make sure I kind of hit my checks and balances. And that's also where staff comes in too. You have trusted staff that will be in your ear to say, hey, let's not get, either no or yes, right? And hold you to kind of some of the things that you want to be held to foundationally, fundamentally, and just philosophically.
He was pretty honest when we talked to him a few weeks ago when he was going through that stretch of Josh is dealing with injuries, your games are getting moved, the schedule is crazy anyway, there's not the normal amount of time to practice of just, guys respond well, but that's still a challenge, obviously, when there's not actual practice. How do you think he took, that adversity and is spinning it forward now?
Yeah, I think, like I said, that they're all valuable lessons that you learn. There's, as a play caller and a game planner, there's a first time going through those short weeks or different weeks where I've got a player who's banged up a little bit at a certain position, i.e. in this case, the quarterback, the main position. Developing a game plan for situations like that and coming up with a winning game plan every week. And he also has a new staff that they started off, out new together, most of them, and in particular under Ken's direction here. So all those are great learning opportunities and things that you get better at with time and with experience.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, it's Jay one more time. It's my question was sort of along those lines that you kind of just touched on, but you have gone through Thursday games to Saturday games to Monday games, Sunday games. So you've dealt with less rest, you've dealt with more rest, you've dealt with limited or no practice time. What has been maybe the thing that you have found has worked or maybe not worked as you kind of, you go through those different sets of challenges each week when you look at, time between games and how it's differing so much?
Schedule, you're referring schedule wise, Jay?
Yeah, schedule wise, just because it's been such, you guys are creatures of habit and you have been on a different schedule almost every week in terms of when you were going to be playing.
Yeah. You kind of try and, I think the best thing to do is embrace it, really. It's not changing, so you embrace it. And, I think that's the best way to go about it. And you rely on the staff around you to help you come up with the right schedule that's best for the players, number one. And then it's important that they get their rest, and then the coaches as well, that they can get some rest, because it's a grind. And you guys know it, you're moving right along with this. And there's early mornings and late nights, and you're trying to be at your best this time of year. And that's when you're at your highest exhaustion point as well. So that's kind of a conundrum, right? So you try and figure it all out and find some spots for some balance and mental refresh if you can, and then physically be as fresh as possible.
The lights were still on in the press box at 3 a.m. when I left, so I know what you're saying. So thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
Guys are grinding, man. I love it.
Hey, Sean, how much do you think Dawson Knox's willingness to be a blocker throughout the season kind of helped him stay engaged in the offense until his targets started to come?
Yeah, I just think it's a great example of being an unselfish teammate, right? And no job too small, no job too big either, but no job too small in that case. And you didn't hear Dawson, chirp once about, hey, I'm not getting my targets, and what about me? The team was winning, and I think that was the most important thing to him. And I think that says a lot about his character and who he is and how important this team is to him. And so that was great to see.
How much do you think some of his stop and start with, his personal stuff and then his injuries kind of contributed to his kind of taking some time to find a role in the offense, a new offense?
I would say I don't think it affected Dawson's performance only because the way he handled it, the way in which he handled it. Could it have? Yes, but I think more of it was just what he was being asked to do. Blocking more so maybe than being the primary route runner or what have you, or the secondary route runner. So the game ebbs and flows, and I think again, you go in every week and you say, hey, what am I being asked to do this week? And you embrace that role, and then you maximize your 1/11th for the team's best interest. So I think Devin Singletary was a great example yesterday, and he had a chance to score a touchdown, and basically went down for the betterment of the team so we could win the game. And that's not always easy to do, but he executed at a high level right there.
Thanks.
Yep.
That's all for today. Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Thanks, guys.